Good morning here from Zolder. What an exciting first race day with a dominating Norbert Kiss and a rain hero. We saw Adam Latzko. He came from the 5th place and won at the end. But at this second race, there was an incident between Norbert Kiss and Jamie Anderson. There were a lot of discussions, and now we see why they had the discussions. Let's see the pictures.
Now look at this, Norbert Kish on the extreme right-hand side of your screen, weaving around, trying to get whatever aerodynamic benefit he can off Sascha Lenz. But I think Sascha, maybe not with the best run coming out of the final corner. He's looking to the inside, is Norbert Kish, trying to follow the same gap as Sascha, allowing Jamie Anderson to run himself out wide, and potentially 2 for the price of 1 here. Norbert Kish up the inside, will evolve to the outside for Sterrenwacht. And still side by side, Norbert Kish and Jamie Anderson still knocking doors, but Sascha Lenz really the winner out of this. I think yet even more contact between the pair of them. Norbert Kish, you can see where he's positioning the truck, so he's no longer got a truck on his inside or outside. All of the momentum is going the way of Norbert Kish at the moment. Of course, championship leader and race winner from race 1. He's really sat on that rear bumper of Jamie Anderson now. Then we get back to the man we're riding on board with now, the number 41 Hungarian of Norbert Kish. Managed to work his way in front of Jamie Anderson.
And after this, the discussions, they kept on. Norbert Kish, my colleague Andreas Ahn, he was talking to us, and let's hear what he has to say about this incident.
I'm doing track racing for 10 years now, racing in general for 15 or 16 years now. I see what's going on the circuit, you know, and Jamie was intentionally trying to slow me down, you know, and when Sascha made a mistake going off to the grass because it was difficult condition in the rain, Jamie was lifting in the straights, you know, blocking me, and then when I overtake him, he was pushing me from behind, like all the way through some corners. I had to go like this because he was pushing me, and things like that, you know. So yeah, and I know I am an aggressive driver as well, you know, but I am aggressive in my own battles, you know, with people that I am fighting in the championship, and with people who are racing for the race wins. But obviously Jamie is still a little bit behind on pace. I just told him that I think it's not so fair, and I think they took the team play a little bit too far. That's all.
At the end, can you sort it out? Are you friend again with him, with Jamie?
No, I wouldn't say at the moment that we are friends. Maybe later.
Thank you.
Good luck.
And now we are live with Jamie Anderson. There was just an interview with Norbert Kiss. He said, "You are no more friends at the moment, maybe later." And he was accusing you that you're blocking him and that you are pushing him from behind. What are your thoughts about the situation yesterday?
My thoughts are that sometimes when a baby kicks the toys out of the pram, there's a big problem. And Norby has it too much his own way. He thinks that he can use his bullying tactics on the track, and with me it doesn't work. As the saying goes, what he gives, he gets back. And that's simple as. Just because you have Norby in your mirrors, don't mean you need to pull over and say, "Oh, thank you, there you go." It doesn't work like this. If he's so much of a good driver, he should have got past. But hey, this is 2 sides of a story. Maybe people make their own decision, and maybe people in the paddock already have made their own decision. So if Norby is like that, that's fine, but he will always get what he gives, and that will be exactly the same. So nothing what we did yesterday was unfair, you know, and I'm not the crying wolf standing here that I'm getting bullied or pushed or hit. You know, it is racing, and unfortunately that's what he needs to understand.
And how you would describe your relationship now to Norbert Kiss?
It's no different than it was. You know, what goes on track, and what comes in the paddock, if he wants to bring it in the paddock, then hey, he needs to go back to kindergarten. You know, for me, that the racing stays on the track, and that's where it stays. And just because he spits his toys out of the pram, maybe he needs to put them back in and grow up.
So in the next situation, you won't do anything else that you did in that situation?
No, for sure not. You know, exactly the same. Okay.
Jamie, thank you very much and good luck. So that was Jamie Anderson. So I think that was a very open-minded and very interesting interview. And now have a lot of fun with our commentators, AB and Jack. And back to you.
Thank you very much there, Christopher. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the FIA European Truck Racing Championship, and welcome to the Zolder circuit in Belgium. And if you were with us yesterday, of course, welcome back. And if you are just joining us, you can clearly see that the tensions are rising both on and off the circuit. We've got more action for you on the way. Of course, we've got qualifying and Super Pole this morning, and then 2 further races in the afternoon, much like yesterday. And if you weren't here yesterday, wow, you missed out on a brilliant day of motorsport. Qualifying in the morning, very, very close. The Super Pole session that followed was even closer. Race 1 with varying conditions is probably the best way to put it. It was all about the midfield. But race 2, however, when the heavens opened, we had a rain delay. But once the race got underway, albeit under yellow flag conditions, you could see where the drivers were slowly going to seep through the cracks. And in the end, it was Adam Lachko that topped race 2, with Steffi Halm taking to the podium as well in second place. Great race from her. And it's been a dream weekend, really, for Theo Calvet, because he finished 3rd overall in race 2, taking the chrome win. And then in race 1 of the weekend, he finished 7th overall, once again taking the chrome win. So a brilliant weekend so far for the Bergera Racing Freightliner. Things of note really for this morning: the number 41 machine, of course, Norbert Kisch. Whether it's a direct issue caused from yesterday or not, they found out they had a hole in the engine block, whether it be last night or during the night. So he has a brand new engine in his MAN, and wow, it is a very quick engine, I can tell you that much. Going off practice this morning, you could just tell that truck is going to be on absolute rails today. So does the number 55, race 2 winner from yesterday, Adam Lachko, the 2017 champion. He has a new engine in his Bergera Freightliner as well, so keep an eye on him throughout qualifying, potentially Super Pole if he makes it in, and then of course both the races. We do have onboard cameras from a few of our trucks this weekend. The number 25 of Heinrich Clemens Hecker, who only really saw 3 laps of on-track action yesterday, managed to complete 3 laps in qualifying. Then with a turbocharger issue, he had to retire from qualifying, couldn't make it out for race 1, and then never made it out for race 2. But riding on board with him now, you can see he's done an installation lap, working his way back in towards the pit lane now. And well, what can I say, really? He's definitely out. He's going to definitely be circulating, so keep an eye on him. Really a dark horse with this one, working his way into qualifying. We'll see how much potential that MAN has. Of course, yesterday we were riding on board with Jamie Anderson, of course, man in question after yesterday's antics with Norbert Kisch, so it will be great to get an onboard from him throughout both races and qualifying. Here we go, here riding on board with Jamie. Of course, we saw him leaving the paddock and heading on towards his installation lap, getting everything up to temperature, everything dialed in, making sure all the readings are correct. And we do have the number 41 Hungarian Norbert Kisch. We will be able to ride on board with our race 1 winner from yesterday and our championship leader as well. Riding on board with him now down the Zolder pit lane. And Zolder's one of these circuits which is steeped in motorsport history. It was built in 1963. It's gone over various changes through 1975, 1986, and most recently 2002 to the layout we are familiar with today. And it has played host to some brilliant motorsport events. It's held around about 10 Formula One Grand Prix in between the years of 1973 and 1983. And then slightly smaller series, but don't take away from the action, of course, Super League Formula, Champ Car, the Blancpain Series, and then once again, most recently, DTM, the FIA European Truck Racing Championship, as is this weekend, and then the NASCAR Wheel and Euro Series. So the circuit is really no stranger to really, really close racing. You can see while the tensions are building on and off the track, so too are the crowds. Everybody more than happy that the sun is out today. Of course, yesterday, if you were joining us, the heavens opened, and by God, there was a lot of water on the circuit, and the drivers, I think, maybe had a little bit too much fun because there was lots of sideways action. But eventually the track slowly started to dry out, but we should have no further issues today. There's no real rain on the forecast. So while the clouds aren't as thick, the sun can come out, everything gets up to temperature. And once again, we heard from Adam Lachko that he has always been very quick since karting in the wet. So today we get the opportunity to see which drivers maybe favour a slightly warmer track. And of course, with the sun out and more on-track action carrying on throughout the day, the track is only going to get warmer. Before this session, we had qualifying for the Dutch Truck Racing Cup out. They were one of the first sessions out. We did have free practice for the FIA ETRC first, but the first main on-track action today was from the Dutch Truck Racing Cup. So the track should be suitably rubbered in, ready for the FIA trucks. And we'll look forward to seeing them out on the circuit in a few moments' time. We've got to note Jochen Hahn as well in the number 1 machine. He's in an Iveco. He's a multi-champion, 6-time champion of the FIA European Truck Racing Championship, and he has finished 2nd 3 times as well. So if he hasn't been on the top step, he's been just alongside. And that Iveco that he's in, it's more or less a development season for that truck. So maybe this season he's still finding his feet and really learning how that truck handles, but next season is really when it's going to find its groove. So keep an eye out for him throughout not only this weekend, but over the coming weekends as well, and while we're closing out the season, as he only gets more familiar with that truck. And next season, my money's really on Jochen Hahn. Who else have we got of note? Andre Kurzim yesterday, narrowly missing out on a podium. He did finish 3rd in the Titan class, but never managed to work his way into the top 3 overall. Keep an eye on Andre. I think he will be one to watch for today. Once again, Teo Calvé, you can't rule him out after what has been a brilliant weekend. Can he carry this momentum going forward in the number 20 Bagheera Freightliner? Potentially. We've got to keep an eye on him as well. And Steffi Halm, after yesterday's performance, finishing 2nd overall. I really think if she can get qualifying going her way, or manages to land a decent sized reverse grid. Of course, if you finished 8th, if you're unfamiliar with the FIA European Truck Racing Championship, we've got qualifying in the morning, but the top 8, or the top 10, pardon me, go through to Super Pole, and then that decides your grid for race 1, and the finishing results for race 1, the top 8 are reversed, and that then forms your grid for race 2. You can now see Norbert Kish working his way out onto circuits with all the trucks in tow. Sascha Lenz following along. Of course, Norbert Kish and Sascha Lenz, championship rivals as it stands, so we'll have to make sure we keep an eye on the pair of those two. Heinrich Clemens-Hecker riding on board with him now, the number 25 MAN, working his way towards the tail end of the pit lane, following Elia Kolok out as well. And I think at this point we've really just got to wait and see, because there's no guarantee that that we'll see maybe the same drivers up at the top of affairs. So as soon as the drivers get the trucks up to temperature, putting some work into the tyres, into the brakes, making sure everything is up to temperature, they will then go on to their first flying laps. We saw yesterday that a lot of the drivers maybe do 1 or 2 flying laps, work their way towards the middle of the session, pull into the pit lane, and just allow the session to really wear down. And then potentially, if they feel like they're in danger of not making it through to Super Pole, returning to the circuit and trying to better their lap time. A very, very busy Clyde chicane, I believe, at this point. You've got truck after truck after truck after truck. So I think it's more or less trying to find some clean air and find some real estate on the circuit, just so you can work that piece of room that you've got and really make the most of this qualifying session. Norbert Kish, the head of the train, followed by Sascha Lenz and Adam Lachko, the top 3 in the championship going into this weekend, and I do believe they remain the top 3 even after yesterday's action. And it's Antonio Alberthetti and Steffi Halm following suit. So in a few moments' time, we will be getting the flying laps underway. The times will slowly start to be posted, and it's really going to be the first indication as to how the race and more or less how the day is going to go. Norbert Kish around the Boulderberg Bocht, where we saw a brake failure, or in theory it was an ECU problem for Stefan Faas yesterday. Couldn't get the truck slowed down and went straight on down towards the escape road. He did return to the circuit later on, however, and in race 2 he finished, I'll try and find it now, he finished in 12th place, and in race 1 he finished in 10th. So there's plenty of potential for that truck. So we'll have to keep an eye on him throughout the day to see whether he can work his way back through the order. But the qualifying session well and truly underway now. Norbert Kish puts his foot to the floor, changes up through the gears, crossing the timing beam now to go on to his first flying lap. So too does Sascha Lenz, and everybody else behind follows suit. Hard on the brakes, you can see the nose of the truck dive down and flick it in towards the left. Use all the curb on the entry, all the curb on the exit, and just manage that oversteer. Well, turning the truck with the rear is probably the best way to do it, because there's a lot of weight over the front axle. There's got to be a minimum of 3,150 kilos over that front axle. So if you can steer with the rear and point the front of the truck where you want to go, it really can make all that difference. But a little too much and you'll find yourself pointing the wrong way. But Norbert Kish now, very clean lap so far, just wisping up a little bit of gravel on the exit there of Lucien Bianchi-Bocht. Sascha Lenz just sat behind, so very, very evenly matched at the moment. Of course, Norbert Kish with that fresh engine. If you are new to truck racing in general, you may see steam pouring out of both the left and the right front wheels. Nothing really to worry about, because the brakes have got to try and stop at least 5.3 tons. They are water cooled, so the driver will be able to spray water onto his brake discs, get them cooled down, so then they are remaining within that operational window, because here at Zolder you've got some very heavy braking zones. Only 11 turns here at Zolder officially, 3 of which are chicanes. You've got the Klein chicane, the Villeneuve chicane, and then Jackie X-Bocht, which is the final corner. Heading into Boulderberg-Bocht now. On his first flying lap goes Norbert Kish. Works his way round onto the exit. Sascha Lenz dropped back a little bit, so a good indication as to where the times are going to go. I think Norbert Kish potentially 3 or 4 tenths up of Sascha Lenz at the moment. Only time will tell. Once we cross the timing beam for the first time today, we will see just how quick that truck really is. So working his way through the final corner now, puts his foot to the floor, up through the gears, and charging towards the line. The first time posted today, once Norbert Kish crosses the line, wait for it to update, a 1:57.024, very, very quick lap time, 1.2 seconds adrift is Sascha Lenz. Adam Lachko goes into provisional P2 with a 1:57.9, still around about 8 tenths of Norbert Kish. Antonio Albacete works his way up into provisional P3, so Sascha Lenz really not finding the bit here. But Norbert Kish, that new engine, it's not the quickest we've seen him all weekend. We have seen a couple of drivers work their way into the 1:56s. He is only 24 thousandths off that, albeit, so he's still got the pace with, behind the wheel of his MAN. Sascha Lenz really dropping down the order now. He's down in 6th place. We do have Jochen Hahn up in provisional P2, only 2.5 tenths back from Norbert Kish. There is Jamie Anderson. He crossed the line to post a 1:59.882, so still further improvements available for Jamie Anderson. Top 13 having posted times already. There goes Luis Frequenco. Where does he put himself? Provisional P13 as it stands, a 2-minute 1.304. Rene Reina sets his first time, not massively representative of what he can do. That was a 2:31, so very much an installation lap. He'll do potentially a cool down lap or another warm-up lap, and then go through and set a slightly more representative time. Luke Garrett crosses the line. Of course, he retired from race 2 yesterday, pulled off to the right-hand side of the circuit, pretty much where we're at now, heading into Steden-Vogt-Bocht, and I think he just lost drive. He lost all engine power and was left with no choice but to pull over and force the truck in towards retirement. It's great to see Heinrich Clemens Hecker out on circuit. Of course, now he does have that turbocharger issue fixed, and thank you to our wonderful ETRC colleague Barbara. She really has come in this weekend and just she's kept me updated with absolutely everything, so a massive thank you to you, Babs. And we did see Jamie Anderson's truck looking rather second-hand just before we switched to the interview with Jamie Anderson. Though the front right-hand side of that truck was under quite intense investigations from the Anderson racing team. But of course he is out and circulating, maybe not as quickly as he'd like, still building up a little bit of confidence, I think, having just had repairs done to his truck. But he is out, which is the most important thing. We have a full 16 trucks out today, whereas yesterday the maximum we had was around about 15. There is Norbert Kish, there is Sascha Lenz, and there is Adam Lachko, all working their way into the pit lane. Antonio Albacete just behind. Is he going to follow suit? Yes, he is. So too does Steffi Harm. No, Steffi Harm does stay out for another lap. So does Stefan Fast. Jamie Anderson, is he going to go on another lap? No, he isn't. That does surprise me. One of the Freightliners continues on. That's Teo Calvert. But Steffi Harm going on to another flying lap. Stefan Fast will have to be careful here not to get too close to the tail end of the Iveco in front. Stefan Fast, the only Scania out on circuit this weekend. But what can Steffi do after a very good outing yesterday? 2.4 seconds off the current provisional pole time posted by Norbert Kisch. But we will see in around about 2 minutes' time whether she can make any sort of inroads on towards that top 6. Of course, the top 10 will get you through to Super Pole, so at the moment she will get through, but you want to make sure you've got a bit more of a buffer than 0.3 of a second. Stefan Faas still just sat behind in his Scania, working his way forward. You may have noticed as well, of course, we do have the 4 Bagheera Freightliners, and they are very, very, very similar liveried. So if you want to pick between them, the number 20, the number 29, and the number 55. The number 20 being Teo Calver. He is behind the wheel of his Freightliner. He has blue flashes, so it will be a blue fifth wheel, a blue blue wing mirrors, and blue headlight covers. Alea Kolak, her truck has the red flashes, so red fifth wheel, red wing mirrors, and red headlight covers. And Adam Lachko, all the same, but in yellow. Of course, race 2 winner from yesterday, and at the moment currently sat in provisional P3. But coming through the Jochen Rindsbocht, heading towards the final chicane now, will we see any improvement for Steffi Halm or Stefan Faas? In towards the final corner now. Let's see who can work their way forward. Of course, Halm and Faas only separated by a couple of tenths of a second after their first few laps posted. A 159.423 to beat for Steffi Halm. Crosses the line now. Does she improve? Yes, she does. A 158.650 posted. That promotes her up into provisional P7. Another improvement as well from Stefan Faas. A 158.801. Only 1.5 tenths separates the pair of them. So keep an eye out on Steffi Halm and Stefan Faas for the race. They are very evenly matched. Returning to the circuit is Jamie Anderson to go on to another flying lap, making his way through the Villeneuve chicane now and towards Terlemann-Vogt. Very tricky right-hander. You don't want to run wide because you've then got a little bit of an incline before then diving back down towards the Boulderberg box. Very, very heavy braking zone. Hard on the brakes. You'll see the nose of the truck dip now. Down through the gears and throws it in towards the curb. You'll see the bollards on the entry of most of the corners around about the apex. That's just to denote where the track limits are, because of course you are sat very high up in these trucks. The circuit officials obviously need to make sure that the drivers can see where the track limits are, although some of them yesterday maybe not abiding by the track limits that are enforced. We saw a few rather second-hand looking bollards. Onto another flying lap goes Teo Calver and Jamie Anderson now, who's really closed up on that Freightliner. So we'll have to be careful not to get too close. Much like Stefan Faas with Steffi Halm, of course you want to maybe pick up a few little bits of draft and potentially some straight line advantage, but dirty air, how big it is in these trucks, I'm not 100% sure. But through the corners, I'm sure there will be some sort of slight disturbance. But heading now through Kanalbocht and towards Lucien Bianchi-Bocht, a very tricky corner, very deceptive. You can carry a bit more speed than you initially think on turn-in. Use all the curb on the exit, both drivers doing so. Now heading towards the Klein chicane, down the straight we go. You'll see the nose of the truck dip now. Hard on the brakes. You can see the tail end of the truck squirming sideways. Like I say, these trucks have got to be a minimum of 5.3 tons. 3.1 of those tons has to be over that front axle. So the tail end of the truck will end up being very, very light under braking. Of course, the weight difference and the weight all throwing itself towards the front of the truck under heavy braking. So it doesn't surprise me that a lot of these trucks pretty much enter the corner sideways and exit the corner sideways by the looks of it. Jamie Anderson really putting his foot down, hoping to work his way forward in this qualifying session. Still got a lot of time to find though. He's one position away from working his way in towards Super Pole. One position, however, is around about 0.6 of a second up the road to Shane Brereton. So can Jamie Anderson make any inroads in towards the top 10? Teo Calver at the moment currently sat in provisional P9. There is a little bit of traffic there. That's the number 25 machine of Heinrich Clementecker. Jamie Anderson works his way around without too much of an issue. Hard on the brakes, down through a couple of gears, and then in towards the left, in towards the right, and then it's just a straight run towards the line. What can the number 20 Freightliner do crossing the line now? Is it an improvement? A 158.817, the previous fastest, nothing there. And Jamie Anderson doesn't improve. He does improve, actually, pardon me, but it isn't enough to improve his position. I think Teo Calvé did the same, improved his overall lap time, but didn't improve upon his position. He's only about a hundredth of a second away from Stefan Farr, so there is definitely potential there for a positional improvement. 6 minutes of the session remaining, so a lot of the drivers in the pit lane just cooling down, getting ready to, if they need to, go out and complete another time lap. There is Rene Reina with damage aboard the left-hand side of his truck. I don't think he's been too close to anybody as of yet to receive that damage. May potentially be from one of the bollards if he's turned in slightly too early. There goes Alaya Kolak. She will very shortly be going on towards another lap, and Luis Rukenko out-braking himself in towards the Villeneuve chicane. Very easily done. The very heavy braking zone once again. You're carrying all the momentum from the Klein chicane, and of course then you go downhill. 100 miles an hour you'll be entering that corner. Of course all the trucks limited to 100 miles an hour or 160 kilometers an hour. I think Jochen Hahn got picked off by the race stewards for that yesterday after overspeeding. Of course, that will be an unfair advantage. And the race stewards, I'm sure they're rather busy down in Parc Fermé and the assembly area, making sure that the trucks are, of course, ready, safe, more importantly, and legal to race. And the rear brake lights have to be at least 90 lumens. How they check that, I don't know, but they have to be at least 90 lumens, and they must be fitted with an audible warning sound when reverse gear is engaged. We heard it yesterday in the pit lane. I'm sure we'll hear it once again today, but when the drivers engage reverse, there has to be an audible warning sound, which is another unique little regulation from the FIA ETRC. In towards turn 1 goes Rene Reina with Luis Rukenko in tow. Alaya Kolak just up the road. She has gone towards another flying lap. And there was somebody else just behind as well. I couldn't quite pick them out before the camera changed. Of course, we are here in Belgium this weekend, and all the way through the gravel goes Luis Rukenko. And now looking back down towards the pit lane, we have Adam Lachko just having a few little pressure changes. I think the mechanic going over, checking the pressures and seeing whether they are suitable. Alaya Kolak over to the left-hand side of the circuit, abandoning her flying lap. She still has the time to go out and improve. There is Rene Reina in towards the left and the right. Don't use too much curve through there. Of course, you can have a bit of a nibble at it, but use too much, it will unsettle the truck and make it very difficult to put the power down. And a lot of power it is, 1,200 brake horsepower and around about 5,500 Newton meters worth of torque, or around about 4,000 pound-foot. So that's a lot of pulling power behind the wheel of these trucks. Very sideways on the exit was Rene Reina, I think using a little bit too much curb. That just caught him out with the lack of traction control. In towards Walderberg Bocht, hard on the brakes, flicks it in towards the right. So too does Luis Rukenko, looking to improve upon his time at the moment. Rene Reina sat in provisional P12, a 159.972 to beat in his Iveco. And Luis Rukenko just sat behind a 2:0.190 to beat if he wants to improve his time. If he wants to improve his position, he needs to find a couple of tenths of a second. But towards the line now comes Rene Reina. Across the timing beam in a few moments' time. Does he improve upon his time? A 159.972 to beat, as I said. Yes, he does. Right the way up to provisional P7, a 158.649 posted. Great stuff from the number 77 machine. Does Rukenko improve upon his time? Yes, he does, but he doesn't improve upon his position. A 2:0.029 posted. That is very close to a 1:59. So he has been only further improving throughout this weekend. That does mean that Brereton has been demoted out of Superpole, albeit at the moment, of course, still with 2.5 minutes of the session remaining, still potential for drivers to improve upon their time. So got to be careful here, does Teo Calvé, because he is the driver at risk, really, in 10th place. Got to make sure that he either finds a couple of tenths of a second to find himself secure, or a couple of positions potentially. In the background, you can see Teo heading on towards another flying lap. An improvement from Teo. He was actually finishing a flying lap, and what did I say? A couple of tenths or a couple of positions, and he found a couple of positions, a 1:58.440 from the Bagheera Freightliner, and that has put him in fairly safe hands towards the top of the Superpole standings. Stefan Faas demoted down into 10th place. He is now the driver at risk. Steffi Harm sat there in 9th. She'll have to be careful not to lose any further time to the trucks behind. Brereton has been demoted down into 11th place now. There is Heinrich Clemens-Hecker over to the right-hand side of the road, and not really on a flying lap this time by. He'll have to be careful though. I can't remember quite when he crossed the line and whether he had the time to go on to another flying lap, but I think it will be very tight. I don't think there will be another lap. There definitely won't be one from Teo Calvet. Of course, the truck will be running at an all-time high. The temperatures will be very, very hot in that Freightliner, having just improved upon his time suitably to head towards Superpole. So it will just be more a cool-down lap. Crossing the line now is Luis Ruquenco, and that wasn't an improvement last time through. So potentially on towards his final flying lap now. From the body language of the truck, I wouldn't say he is. Coming to the line now is Jamie Anderson. Is this a flying lap? A 1:59.264 to beat. He still stays in 12th place, but riding on board with Jamie Anderson, you can see he is going on towards a flying lap. All the curb on the left-hand side, all the curb on the right of the exit. Want to manage the oversteer as well. Flicks it in towards Stadenvogt. This is the apex very slightly, but it does allow him to carry the momentum through Kanalbocht. Of course, all of the onboard cameras presented by Goodyear, one of the partners here at the FIA European Truck Racing Championship. Works his way around Luis Ruquenco, a little bit of traffic there, but in now towards the Klein chicane, hard on the brakes, and then applies the power as quickly but also as smoothly as possible to propel the truck out of the chicane, up the hill, under the bridge, and then down towards the Villeneuve chicane. Hard on the brakes now. You can see the tail end of the truck just squirming around once again. Number 77, that is Rene Rayner, deletion of current lap time for overspeeding. And we mentioned it earlier on, overspeeding can really start to catch people out. So the top 10 as it stands are Norbert Kish, Jochen Hahn, Adam Lachko, Andre Kursim, Antonio Albertetti, and then followed by Sacha Lenz, Teo Calvet, Rene Rayner, Steffi Harm and Stefan Faas. Of course, with this being the final opportunity for anyone to improve, can Jamie Anderson work his way in towards the top 10 and work his way in towards Superpole? A 1:59.264 to beat if he wants to get in towards that Superpole. Only 100th of a second away from a position change, but he will need to find at least half a second if he wants to get in towards that top 10. Crossing the line in a few moments' time, he does improve a 1:58.737. That does put him just in towards the Superpole timing. Does anybody else improve and demote him out of that Superpole, having just got there? I don't believe so. So Anderson has got himself in towards Superpole. Never mind, Brereton has beaten him there. We do have an interview with Jochen Hahn in the pit lane.
Yeah, Jochen Hahn, how satisfied are you with your time? You're second.
In the end, I have no strategy. I'm focused here to the one lap what we need now. So this is all.
Yesterday you also had a very good time, but struggling in the race. What is the difference between that, or where the problems?
In the end, we have the rules, so it's allowed to go a little bit over 160. We have one peak, so it's a foul from our electronic. So from this side we must accept. So we have the disqualification. Second place, a little bit, not angry, but a little bit enttäuscht. I don't know in English. So today it's a new day.
It's disappointed, but hope that you can improve. Thank you very much, Jochen Hahn. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Chris. Down in the pit lane, number 77, of course, Rene Rayner. He had the current lap time deleted for overspeeding. It has now been corrected. There was no overspeeding there, so he does get to keep that lap time. But just before we went down in towards the pit lane for an interview with Jochen Hahn. Shane Brereton just about worked his way in towards Superpole. So your Superpole drivers are Norbert Kish, Jochen Hahn, Adam Lachko, Andre Kursim, Antonio Alberthetti, Sasha Lenz, Teo Calve, Rene Reina, Steffi Harm and Shane Brereton. So those are your 10 drivers that will retake to the circuit to see what they can do about improving their race 1 qualifying positions. You can see the crowds all working their way in, ready to watch yet more truck racing action. Of course, we do have the support races here this weekend as well. So it's a very busy weekend for everyone involved. We've got the Ford Fiesta Sprint Cup, as previously mentioned, the Dutch Truck Racing Cup and the Cup and Tordenwagen Trophy as well here this weekend, upon, I think, another couple as well. But the crowd's more than happy to arrive here today in shorts and a t-shirt, of course, because yesterday probably wasn't the best weather for it. Umbrellas and ponchos were sent out. Rene Reina, we have an interview.
Yeah, Rene, how's the situation for you? Only the 12th time, disappointed?
Yeah, we have a little bit to fight with the truck today. There was some technical problems already in the warm-up, and now it's, we try to solve everything. So it's not so easy today.
Where are the problems and how to solve them?
The braking water. You know, it's I think a lot of calc here in the water what we get from outside, and then the filters was kaput. So we not getting enough water for the brakes, and then was more high temperatures, and then you cannot brake anymore. So now we try to solve it.
Rene, thank you and good luck. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Christopher. A great little insight there to Rene Reina. Of course, like I mentioned earlier on, the water-cooled brakes crucial to allowing the trucks to slow down safely and in time before they arrive at a corner. Rene Reina having a slight issue there. Of course, we've got our little fans here as well, racing their trucks around the paddock. Great to see. Of course, motorsport's so inclusive with everybody, and the crowds really are starting to pour in. You can see up on the top left-hand side of your screen all of the viewing areas up there as well, absolutely packed. So it's great to see we've got a good crowd as well. The pit lane just being readied for the Superpole session. Of course, a massive thank you to our race circuit officials and fabulous marshals for giving up their weekend and allowing us to go motor racing. We really wouldn't be able to do it without you. The marshals really put to work yesterday as well with Heinrich Clemens-Ecker's shortcomings in qualifying with the turbo issue. So he got the truck retrieved safely behind the Armco, and then cement dust appropriately applied to the circuit just to make sure there wasn't any oil or any slippery liquid sat on the circuit. So of course, safety being the highest priority here. Now it's just eagerly awaiting the Superpole session to take place. Norbert Kish and everybody else working their way on towards the timing screen, which does mean only one thing. They are leaving the pit lane. Norbert Kish leading Jochen Hahn, leading Lachko, leading Kursim, leading Albersetti, ahead of Sasha Lenz, Teo Calve. And then when we get a few more up, we have Steffi Harm, as well as Shane Brereton. That's only 9 of the 10 names we need. Rene Reina will be the final truck to leave the pit lane. That is the name we are missing. So they're just working to get their water-cooled brake system fixed, just to make sure he can return to the circuit and really extract the most performance out of that truck, and safely, of course. So only a 10-minute Superpole session. Time for a quick installation and warming up lap, then a flying lap. If you so wish, you can return to the pit lane, but if not, it's just really about waiting, getting a couple of laps in, maybe a banker lap at the start of the session, and then going out later on and really pushing the truck forward, hoping to improve upon your Superpole time. You can see the heat haze in the background of shot there, so definitely a lot hotter today than it was yesterday. I'm sure for some drivers that's a godsend. Of course, you don't really want to be racing a 5.3 truck ton in the wetters. I'm sure it's brilliant fun, but I'm sure it's rather scary at the same time. But with a perfectly dry track, pretty much optimum conditions here, fairly early in the racing day, so the trucks, of course, nice and cool. I won't really have a massive issue with cooling, apart from Rene Reina with his defective brake cooling system. But the track is suitably rubbered in from yesterday's action as well, so theory, it's a perfect circuit at the moment. Everybody just working their way around, as we saw in qualifying one. The same with Superpole, everybody just being patient, getting some temperature into the tyres and the brakes, and getting ready to negotiate another 2.5 mile or 4 kilometre rotation of the Zolder circuit as quickly as possible as well. Norbert Kiesche working his way through Boulderberg Bocht, the hairpin at the tail end of the circuit, warming up the rear tyres on the exit, warming up the brakes as well, and you saw the brake lights illuminate as he stamped on them to get some temperature in. Jochen Hahn with a slightly different brake cooling tactic, just coasting on the brakes, working some temperature into them. But in a few moments' time, we will have Norbert Kiesche heading on towards his first flying lap of the Superpole session today. A 1:58 was posted. I'll get the exact time up from qualifying 2. But it was a very good competitive lap time, might I add, from qualifying 1 on towards his first flying lap. Now goes Norbert Kiesche, so does Jochen Hahn. Interesting to keep an eye on Jochen Hahn. Hopefully he can put it on pole position. Of course, we try to remain as unbiased as possible, but Jochen Hahn weekend hasn't really gone his way. So hopefully today his fortune changes. In the background you can see Adam Lachko really pushing the limits, so too is Andrei Kursim as well. Through Stern Vogt Bocht, very wide open corner, you can carry a lot of momentum through there. Look at the gap Norbert Kiesche has built already over Jochen Hahn. So a very strong first sector. We will have sector times coming through in a few moments' time. So a 37.1 second sector 1. And Jochen Hahn, funnily enough, actually matches him through sector 1. So very similar for the top 2 as it stands. Thereafter, we drop back a couple of tenths in towards the rest of the top 10. René Reiner has taken to the circuit. Pardon me. But it's still Norbert Kiesche leading the head of affairs. Sector 2 time will come through in a few moments' time. Working his way now through Söderman Box and ready for the heavy braking zone of the hairpin. A 42.7 second sector 2 from Norbert Kiesche, a 43 second sector 2 from Jochen Hahn. So there's around about a 2.5 tenth, 3 tenth deficit between the two trucks in shot now. The Hungarian behind the wheel of his MAN working his way towards the Jackie X box, the final chicane here at Zolder. Hard on the brakes now, down a gear, using all the curb he can get away with. Now heads towards the line. What will be the lap time posted by the number 41 machine? Norbert Kiesche towards the timing line. And the time posted is a 1:56.119. That is an incredibly quick lap time. I think potentially the fastest lap time we've seen all weekend. Jochen Hahn also in the 1:56s, a 1:56.903. Adam Lachko, provisional P3 with a 1:57.939. Some 1.2 seconds away from our provisional pole sitter. Andrei Kursim has dropped back a little bit, a 1:58.658, not quite what we were expecting, beaten by Sascha Lenz, Antonio Alberthetti and Teo Calvet. Shane Brereton posts his first time as well, so does Steffi Halm, a 1:58.248, exactly 1/10 quicker than Teo Calvet. That puts her in provisional P6. So now everybody just cooling the trucks down, ready to go for another flat out lap. You can see all of the Ford F-Max branding in the background. Of course, Ford F-Max being the official truck of the FIA European Truck Racing Championship. It was designed and tested by 500 Ford engineers over a 5-year period, and they were carried out in 11 countries over 4 continents. And get this, 233 prototype units were used, and it's involved around about 15,500 hours of lab testing, as well as 5 million kilometers worth of road testing as well. So it really has been built to last. Great stuff from Ford, and the FIA European Truck Racing Championship, of course, remaining partners as well. And we saw there Norbert Kiesche through the Villeneuve chicane using all of the curbs. We saw the sausage curbs yesterday catching a few people out, and the suspension really being worked there on the front axle. And everybody just taking it rather easy at this point, making sure that they can get the truck back in towards its operating window. get it cooled down, get it ready for another flat-out lap. And I don't really want to jinx it, but Norbert Kish, if he's only 1.1 seconds, or if he's only 1/10 of a second away from a 1 minute 55, which will undoubtedly be the quickest time we've seen all weekend, of course, with the new engine in that number 41 machine after finding the hole in the engine block last night, potentially there could be a little bit more performance left in there. And if that's only the banker lap, we could see yet further improvements from himself. Working his way through the Jackie Xbox now. Is he going to go in towards the pit lane? No, he isn't. Of course, this being only a 10-minute session, you don't really have the time to work your way in towards the pit lane. So round the final corner we go with Norbert Kish on towards another flying lap. You can tell by the body language of the truck that really is shifting right the way up to 160 kilometers an hour before we dab the brakes down a gear in towards turn 1. Norbert Kish on towards another flying lap. So too is everybody else behind. All of the curb on the exit. You can see the water-cooled brakes steaming away as they're being worked hard on towards the final of the flying laps this session. Jochen Hahn following suit. There is the first of the Freightliners, Adam Lachko, in the background as well. Andre Kurzem using all of the circuit as well. You might see yet further improvements from the number 11 machine right the way down in provisional P8 as it stands, so don't rule him out. He's already been a winner this season. Finished 3rd in the Titan class of race 2 yesterday, 4th overall. Back to Norbert Kish, through the Klein chicane, over the curbs we go, and then it's the run right the way down towards the Villeneuve chicane. We'll see whether he can improve upon that time. A 1:56.119 is absolutely on rails, that new engine, and I'm sure the track conditions really going to him today. Once again, the front left suspension being worked over the curbs, and then through Terlemann-Bocht, all of the curb you can get away with on the entry. Open the corner up as much as possible, then out towards the curb on the exit as well, trying to straight line the corner as best you can, and then hard on the brakes in towards Boulderberg-Bocht. Through the hairpin we go, and then through the quick left-right flick of Jochen Rindt-Bocht, and then towards Jackie X at the final corner. We'll see whether we can get another improvement from Norbert Kish. Final couple of corners we go. So at the moment, 3/4 of a second clear up at the top of the times. Provisional P1 slightly wide on the exit there, but I think he got away with it towards the timing line now. A 1:56.119 to beat, crosses the line. Is there an improvement? No, there isn't. 7/10 away from what from the time he posted earlier. Jochen Hahn towards the timing line doesn't improve, around about a second away. What about Adam Lachko? Can he improve upon his 1:57.393? No, he cannot. Andre Kurzem, do we see an improvement from him? No, we don't. Then comes Antonio Albertetti. He does improve upon his time and his position up to provisional P5 now, a 1:57.742. Andre Kurzem does improve upon his time. Took a while to come through, but a 1:58.039 posted by Andre Kurzem. That puts him up into 8th place in the Superpole session. We've got a few more drivers to cross the line. There is that Sascha Lenz coming towards the line? Yes, it is. No, it isn't. That's Rene Reina, pardon me, in the number 77 machine, very slowly across the line. And I think potentially we have our grid for race 1 somewhat solved now. Of course, checkered flag being waved to everybody that crossed the line. Nobody else setting any further sector times, but there is your pole man, Norbert Kish, a 1:56.119, a brilliant lap from himself. I'm sure he will be a very happy man in that cab, and hopefully we can grab an interview with him once he returns to the pit lane. Jochen Hahn, 3/4 of a second behind, will join him on the front row, barring any further stewards' inquiries throughout the day before race 1. Through the Villeneuve chicane we go now, and once again the number 77 of Rene Reina, deletion of lap time 6. So I'm assuming that's overspeeding potentially, or track extension. It's very easily done with track extending. 5.3 tons, like I say, is the very minimum weight these trucks can be. So if you're trying to get that slowed down, potentially you turn in a little bit too early to compensate, or you run slightly wide, you will get done by the race stewards for exceeding track limits, and that will be the deletion of your lap time. Rene Reina down in provisional, well, it's not really provisional anymore, right the way down in 10th place, a 1:59.071, some 3/10 away from Shane Brereton just in front. I'm sure the crowds are more than happy with that super pole session. The driver, or the team manager of number 41 and number 33, that's Jamie Anderson and Norbert Kish once again having to go to the race director. So potentially a slap on the wrist for both of those drivers. I didn't really see anything throughout that qualifying session, but clearly there's something of note for race control. So as the trucks work their way back towards the paddock, Norbert Kish crossing the line once again. I thought yesterday they went in towards the pit lane and then were directed towards the paddock, but today everybody working their way back towards the escape road on the right hand side after Canal Box, which leads them straight in towards the paddock area. But the race director clearly not too happy with maybe some qualifying conduct between Norbert Kish and Jamie Anderson. But nonetheless, Norbert Kish, your poleman for today, behind the wheel of his MAN, a very quick lap time, the quickest we've seen all weekend, a 1:56.119, and some 3 seconds quicker than René Reiner, of course, with a couple of lap time deletions throughout this session. Steffi Halm, good qualifying from her. That puts her in 7th place, starting on the 4th row of the grid. Turning around for another lap there is Norbert Kish. Not 100% sure why. So let's hope that the Marshals are well aware of that. I'm sure they are, with our incredibly efficient circuit staff. There we go. We've got the crowds building up yet further. And it's great to see that we are blossoming, hopefully, a young little motorsport fanatic as well. And it's the perfect day for it, a little breeze, but the sun is out, so the drivers will be loving it, so will the spectators. There are our circuit marshals with brooms at the ready, so potentially some gravel correction to be done. Of course, we saw Luis Riquenco go for a trip through the gravel at the Villeneuve chicane earlier on, and you can still see all of the gravel that was deposited onto the exit, so they will be going out, sweeping that up incredibly efficiently and getting the circuit ready and safe for the next session out by one of our support races. There is Norbert Kish working his way now through Turlemann-Bocht and hopefully in towards the pit lane. Riding on board with Norbert Kish now, you can see just a nice little slow in lap. Yellow flags being waved. We've seen a couple of marshals doing that. Norbert Kish now in towards the hairpin. Nice and slowly, and making sure everything is cooled down. But a very, very close Super Bowl session for the mid-pack, of course, up at the top, being 3/4 of a second clear. Nothing really worried Norbert Kish. There are the Marshals sweeping away all of the gravel deposited by Luis Riquenco. And I do now believe we have the results available to us from qualifying. So it will be Norbert Kish up at the top of the time. So 1:56.119 posted, 3/4 of a second ahead of Jochen Hahn. Adam Lachko will start on the 2nd row of the grid with Sasha Lenz alongside. Row 3 of the grid is Antonio Alberthetti with Andre Curzim. Steffi Halm has Teo Calvet for company in 7th and 8th, and it's Shane Brereton and René Reiner 9th and 10th. Followed by Jamie Anderson and Stefan Faas on row 6 of the grid. Then it's Luke Garrett and Luis Riquenco 13th and 14th. And Alia Kolok and Heinrich Clemens Hecker will round out your 16 runners for race 1. That was the grid for race 1 as well, of course. Race 2 will be decided on the finishing order from race 1 with the top 8 reversed. So all that to look forward to. Race 3 of the weekend will be getting underway at around about 1:15 local time, 12:15 if you are watching along in the UK, minus any delays that we may encounter throughout the day. There is Norbert Kish and Alia Kolok working their way in towards the paddock area now. And hopefully we will have a few interviews in a few moments' time. But I've got to say, a very close Super Bowl session in the mid-pack. Up at the top, nothing could really bother Norbert Kish, but the mid-pack getting closer and closer and closer together. Andre Curzim, Steffi Halm and Teo Calvet, drivers of note, only 3/10 separating that trio. And everybody's now just getting ready for the next on-track action. You can see the heat haze in the background there. So the heat is definitely rising here in Belgium. We'll take this quick moment to mention, of course, another partner of the FIA European Truck Racing Association this time. This is the Iveco S-Way. So the European Truck Racing Association are delighted to announce a 3-year extension of its already long-standing partnership with Iveco. You will see the Iveco S-Way, the pace truck, sat at the front of the grid before race 3 and race 4 today. Of course, we had race 1 and race 2 yesterday. And Iveco won't only continue their official partnership with the FIA European Truck Racing Championship, the transport manufacturer will provide bio-LNG, which is liquefied neutral gas, powered by the Iveco S-Way as the pace truck for all events. And that is 100% renewable as well, which is absolutely terrific. And the HVO biofuel, like I say, 100% renewable to reduce greenhouse emissions on track. So therefore bringing a slightly greener way to complete motorsport. And the FIA ETRC plan on being complete net zero by 2038 at the latest. So that is completely carbon neutral and no emissions produced from a racing weekend, which is absolutely terrific. Of course, all trucks do run on a bio HVO diesel, which, like I say, is 100% renewable. And funnily enough, to the point where if black smoke is spotted being emanated from these trucks, the first infringement will lead to a warning. The second could lead to an exclusion. So, of course, there is no room for manoeuvre when it comes to minimising emissions. So it's great to see that we are clamping down on it. And like I say, bringing a greener side to motorsport. We do have Antonio Albacete in the pit lane, and down to you, Chris, for an interview.
Yeah, Antonio, how satisfied are you? 5th place?
Well, it's not bad, but yeah, we expect a little bit more, you know, but yeah, we were not quick enough today. I don't know why, because the track is going well, but maybe I tried to push a little bit and I lost a little bit of in some corners, you know, but yeah, satisfied with the 5th place. We are on a good move, so let's hope that we have a clean race and we can take some points.
So what are your expectations for the race then?
Well, let's see what happens, you know. I think it will be a good fight on the front, so I will be waiting for that, you know, to see what happens and see if I can move some place forward, you know, but just as I tell you, take as much as points and finish the race.
Yeah, we just saw Norbert Kiss. He was smiling, he was in a good mood, but yesterday after the race there was some trouble. Did you realize they were fighting a little bit because arguing after the race? Did you realize that? Norbert Kiss yesterday with Jamie Anderson after the race?
I heard something, yeah, I know that something happened. They have a big fight. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't really see what happened, you know, but I heard about that, yeah.
Okay, Antonio, thank you.
So great stuff there from Antonio Albacete. Slightly disappointed with his 5th place, but still a good result nonetheless. If he was, a 10th quicker, he will have picked up another place. And 4 tenths quicker will have put him on the second row, or the front of the second row, alongside Adam Lachko. We do now have, having just seen him through the background of Sharp, an interview with Norbert Kish. Down to you, Christopher.
Yeah, Norbert Kish, you are the dominator again on Super Pole. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's looking a little bit better than yesterday because now we have a little bit bigger gap than yesterday after the Super Pole. But you know, it's the starting positions, you know, so there's no points in qualifying or whatever, but we are in the best position to score the most points in the race. So, you know, as like yesterday, the start is very important to have a good start. The first turn is very important to stay in front and then try to manage the gap from there. You know, that's our aim, you know, for the championship, you have to win the first race. So I am happy because yesterday we had a little bit of a problem. Unfortunately, we had to change the engine. So the team was working quite late into the night and changing the engine. So I really have to say thank you to the team, to Reves Racing and all the guys, because it was really unfortunate how we ended up yesterday in the evening. And yeah, they really did a good job, you know, because the track is working really well, you know, and we did a better lap time than yesterday. So yeah, I am really happy.
I just heard that you have to go to the race control. Is this with the incident yesterday with Jamie Anderson, or you know?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know. So I have to go and see what's going on. So I think in this qualifying session, nothing happened. I think I didn't do anything wrong. I hope so. Well, we'll see. I go up and we'll see.
Okay, Norbert, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Yeah, let's see what the race control wants from Norbert Kisch. Yeah, that was exciting. He's the dominator. From 6 poles, he got 5 only one time, Jochen Hahn. So see you then at the race, and back to you. Thank you.